Gentlemen.
Detective Ross, Officer Fear. We got here as soon as we got your message.
Great. Come on in. I thought you might be interested in what I found. I removed this from the body this morning.
Looks like a 44. Let's run this over to ballistics.
Ow! Oh, cut. Can't you even hang on to a prop? I can't work under these conditions.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Take 5, everybody.
How many times have you heard the term ballistics used in detective movies?
Lots.
Right. But what exactly is ballistics, and how do they use it to solve crimes? Well, first of all, the term ballistics refers to the study of projectiles and how they fly through the air. What the police do is called forensic ballistics. It's a field that specializes in matching bullets to guns. So how do you match a bullet to a gun? Well, it's actually similar to matching fingerprints. In the box, these bullets are virtually identical. But once they're fired from different guns, they'll become quite distinctive from each other. Now, with fingerprints, it's our genes that make my prints different than yours. But what would make these bullets different from each other? Well, let's take a closer look at the cartridges themselves. They come in a variety of shapes and sizes, but each one contains the same basic components. First, there's the bullet, the part that gets fired out of the gun. The second component is the casing. The casing holds the bullet, and it also holds the propellant, the explosive chemical that pushes the bullet down the barrel. And finally, there's the primer. It's a separate explosive located at the back of the casing. So when you put all the components together, here's how a gun fires a bullet. When you pull the trigger, the hammer drives the firing pin into the primer. The impact sets off a small charge inside the primer, and the spark ignites the propellant, which fires the bullet out of the gun. By the time the bullet leaves the barrel, it's already carrying its own set of fingerprints. But where do these prints come from? Well, it's all due to the fact that the bullet has to be spinning when it leaves the gun. So why does a bullet need to spin? Well, there's a concept in physics that basically says that when an object flies through the air, it will fly in a much more stable and straighter line if it's spinning. I can demonstrate this principle using a football. Now, if I throw the ball to Mike without any spin on it, it doesn't fly too well. But if Mike puts a nice tight spin on the ball, it flies much straighter. The combination of the football's aerodynamic shape and the spinning motion help to counteract the forces that would normally push the ball off its intended flight path. And it's the same thing for a bullet. So the bottom line is, to make a bullet fly straighter and more accurately, we need to make it spin. Now, with a football, we get it to spin by flicking our wrists when we throw it. But how do we make a bullet spin? The secret is in the barrel. If you look down the barrel of a rifle or a handgun, you'll see that it's not a smooth surface in there. Instead, what you'll see is a continuous set of spiraling grooves that have been cut into the inside of the barrel. And if you look closely here, you can see those grooves in this portion of the barrel where the top section has been removed. And now I'll show you what those grooves do. When the bullet is fired down the barrel, the grooves grab onto the bullet and force it to spin. In addition to spin, the grooves also add one other thing to the bullet. As it moves down the barrel, the grooves cut into the bullet and leave marks on its surface. To show you what I mean, here's a bullet that's never been fired. And here's one that has been fired. You can see the groove marks on the fired bullet on the right. Now, fortunately for the police, the marks left by the grooves are slightly different for each gun. And those differences are what the police use to make a ballistics match. Now, remember I said that matching bullets was like matching fingerprints. Well, with fingerprints, you have to compare the prints you found at the scene to a set of prints from the suspect to see if they match. It's the same with a ballistics test. You're trying to determine if a particular gun was used in a crime. You already have a bullet from the crime scene. Now you need a bullet from the gun you're testing so you can compare the two. And that's where this device comes in. It's a special tank designed to collect bullets. The tank itself is full of water. When the officer fires the gun into the opening, the water in the tank slows the bullet down. At the end of the tank is a wire basket that allows the bullet to be easily retrieved. Now that we have two bullets to compare, the next stop is the microscope. Here's an example of two bullets that don't match. Notice that the markings left by the grooves are quite different. These bullets were definitely not fired by the same gun. Now let's look at two bullets that were fired from the same gun. Notice how the marks now line up perfectly with each other. Quite often the police don't find any bullets at a crime scene. Instead, what they find are casings. But luckily for them, these casings can also carry distinctive markings that can help identify which gun they came from. One of the best clues is the mark left by the firing pin on the primer. Different firing pins often leave very different marks, as you can see by these two examples. And in some cases, they can even examine the marks left behind by the extractor that ejects the casing from the gun.
Dr. Winchester, we've gotten the results of the ballistics test.
No, it wasn't me. You don't understand. I have an alibi.
Sure.
I was visiting my grandmother in the hospital. She's deaf, you know.